Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are honored to have conversations with Reverend Allan, a program that is talking about issues of life. And today, again, we're in a new month. I just want to wish you a happy, blessed new month as I welcome Reverend Allan to give us the ball or the conversation of the month of June.
Yeah, thank you. We just cleared agony in marriage, and we thank God for the journey. And in the month of June, our focus shall be on addictions. We want to deal with addictions. We want to discuss addictions and to see how we can help one another out of this problem, and also to pray for one another. Therefore, welcome as we journey together.
Thank you. We are going to discuss about addictions, and again in this wonderful show we have our lovely lady Janet Surum Kiplagat, all the way from University of Kabianga, a psychological counselor who has been with us in this show. It's always a pleasure to have you around. Janet, welcome. We have our lovely Vika here from all the way from Belgut, SK Parish. Again, it's always an honor and a joy to interact with you in this show. Karibuni tu sana. I want to continue with the addictions in the month of June, an interesting subject this month. But I want us just to define what is addiction. What does addiction mean? Every time we hear this word being used time and again, and in this month, I want us to know what addiction is all about. Welcome.
Thank you. As we discuss about addiction, I know most people will run to alcoholism, will run to drug abuse. But addiction is something that is a bit wider and bigger. It can be very extreme, and it can also be very simple and very innocent. And we want to address it in that wider scope, because one starts from somewhere and gets to a big and a complex matter. Therefore, I would start by saying addiction is a situation whereby someone becomes dependent on an object. Let us say something or someone, something that's outside them. They become dependent. It's a kind of a psychological or a physical disorder whereby someone cannot control themselves. They are controlled by a certain thing from outside of them. Like when we say someone is addicted to alcohol, they depend on alcohol. They are controlled by alcohol. They cannot survive without it. It is a compulsive behavior, a compulsive urge. You just find yourself running to that thing. You can't do without it.
Thank you. Janet, what are your definitions on addiction?
I clearly love how Pastor has put it. Like it is broad. So I want our viewers to know that we are not narrowing down only to the types of addiction that we are used to, and we'll go wider and wider. So we invite you to follow us. So I'd say an addiction is anything that you cannot control and you're devoted to. You do not have control. You do not have a limit. Just find yourself doing anything that you are devoted to, but you cannot control. And mostly negative. I must put that disclaimer, negative, because you can be addicted to reading the Bible, which is not a bad addiction. So anything negative that you have an uncontrolled devotion to or for is an addiction.
That is negative.
Yeah.
Yes, speaker.
Yes. Addiction, which we can divine from Latin. Let me go that direction. And it comes, the root cause, the root meaning, actually, it's addict, which means adjudging. It means an award, yeah? And so you crave, and so you depend on something, and that something is outside you, and then you over-rely on it, you overly depend on it, and then and it has some consequences, and the consequences can as well be negative, and it can be something that is good that you are doing, or something that is bad that you are doing, and or using, and then which has got long-lasting effects, which can be negative or can be positive.
Janet said something about it must be negative. Maybe I would just want to say addiction by itself is negative. You can be addicted to the Bible. Now you over depend on the Bible to the level that you lose yourself. If there is something that God did not take from a human being, was willpower. God said, I will not take willpower. Therefore, man has the power to depend on himself to make right choices, right decisions. Therefore, every time you have lost that power to make right choices, right decision, and therefore you have given that power to something else. That is what we call addiction. And that's why in some senses, even church, even religion, even anything, be it good or bad, but you have lost your rights to be in charge. That's why he mentions something like to adjure. To adjure means to abdicate your place as a human being, your place as an independent creature that God has given you power to make decision. Anytime I lose my power to make decisions, to behave, and I say, let me go and take alcohol so that I may come and speak with them. I've lost my power to speak with them. I depend on alcohol so that I may be able to speak with them, or I may be able to face them. Let me go and have sex so that I can feel happy. I've lost my power to be happy. Therefore, I have dedicated that power to that other thing, that I'm depending on a certain object apart from me. I have surrendered my life. My life is not with me. My life is somewhere else. I am an empty shell.
Okay. Can we define addiction as an unquenchable desire? Unquenchable. Unquenchable.
Yes,
Something
yes.
that cannot be quenched. Okay.
An appetite, an urge. That's why we
Insati-
call it
insatiable
compulsive.
appetite.
Okay.
It just pushes you. It's compulsive.
Mhm.
It just pushes you.
And it cannot be quenched.
Yeah.
There is no particular time you'll say, I'm satisfied.
You are
You keep
driven.
on doing it and doing it.
It's like a
Insatiable.
bottomless pit.
A craving desire.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting terms we are getting here from Latin, from the psychological, and even from
CRE.
Reverend Allan. Very wonderful combination of
Mine is
meanings.
CRE, yeah.
Yours is CRE and him is Latin, and then Janet is psychological. I wanted just to continue a little bit to discuss, because we are actually laying a foundation on this topic. What are some of the classifications? How do we now put into groupings that these are, how can we classify addictions? Because now you've talked about it is wide, because most of the time we talk about alcohol, we talk about cigarette, but how do we classify addictions? Janet?
Okay, we have so many addictions, but I would just as an introduction to this topic that will run for some time. Would talk about behavioral addiction, and also the major one that we all know, substance. So can I just say something
Yes,
about
please.
substance?
Please.
Then
Please.
they will pick up.
Please.
So substance is of course things like alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, things like, the tea that we always take as in at home. It's a form of substance addiction. And also food. How you deal with your food, how you deal with food is also an addiction. So let us not view substance addicts as only those who are lost in alcohol, heroin, whatever. Also people who cannot do without nicotine, cigarettes, that is, and also tea. You have to take tea before you sleep, you're an addict. And of course food.
How does one behave around? How do you know this one is a food addict?
A food addict, there's someone who cannot just they cannot just sit for long without having anything in their mouth. Yeah. They are the people who are called foodies, foodies. They just love eating. Not because they are you know you're an addict when you eat, not because you're hungry, but because there is food.
Or you carry some in the bag,
Or
some
you
in
carry
the car,
some in the bag.
some in the car, some in the office.
And actually, even when you're somewhere and maybe it's buffet or something, you put everything. You put everything more than, clearly you will not finish this.
Maybe you don't want to go back many times, so you
No.
want to serve once.
It's kind of a poverty mindset. Addiction has a poverty mindset that this food will finish before I get. So let me put everything. Although you know that you won't finish, that is an addiction. You cannot control. You just want to see your plate full. Yeah.
Okay, Vika. How do we classify addictions and maybe an addition for behavioral and
Yes, for the
substance?
purposes of today's program is that we can as well classify that way too, where we think in terms of physical substances and the cravings for them, and then also we look at behavior, and which can be that is abstract. Behavior is an abstract, which sometimes also can be psychological. And so if we think about the physical things, talk about good drugs as well, and almost everything. She's mentioned tea, yeah, food, mention drinks, beverages, which are soft or otherwise. Talk about that is physical. Talk about something that you normally do. And I've seen some people taking a kind of a chewing gum, and then they continue buying. They buy the chewing gum throughout. Throughout. Yeah, it started as kind of it's a refreshing to the mouth, but then they've continued all along, and they are not able to undo that. Yes, so that is something that is it has gone into psychological. Talk about behavior, and behavior in this case ranges from negative. It also starts positive. Everything. Talk about football and watching. Talk about jogging around every morning. It's good for your health, but then sometimes also you have that compulsion because you are getting some kind of reward. Remember when we mentioned addiction as a kind of an award, is that you've got something that you want to fill into your life. And so that craving for something is that you are doing that something outside you so that you are able to fill in that gap which you do have. And so exercises, talk about watching, reading movies, whatever it is. Talk about people today's betting, yeah, so many things. And those are habits. And it begins like there is a thought in your mind, and then somebody said, you saw a thought and you reap an action. You saw an action, panda, saw an action and you reap a habit. You saw a habit and you reap a kind of behavior. So that behavior and becomes character. And so it is on and on and on. And so when we look at that, is that maybe we'll delve into now the nitty-gritty things of the physical uses and abuses of substances, and coming to behavioral.
Thank you.
Just
Vika.
a minute. Let me just say what Vic has said. When he was talking about addictions, he talked about the small things like chewing. I was once a chewing addict. Like I could not. When I teach, I was not okay if I'm not chewing. Chewing made me think faster and think better, and until I realized this is a problem. I cannot. Then I started now treating myself again.
You focus.
Exposure, yeah.
You focus.
I would say just by definition, addiction is a situation whereby someone is empty until is filled from outside. Someone is not sober until the soberness is supplied to them from outside. The original me is no longer there. I have discovered my missing parts from other things. Now, anytime you say addiction, we speak about, to classify them, we say about behavior, and we talk about substance is, someone depends on a certain behavior. He depends on that behavior to be sober or to be normal. You become abnormal. Actually, it's a mental disorder. It's a physical disorder. It's an emotional disorder. You are abnormal. You can only be normal after you use whatever you are addicted to. Otherwise, you are abnormal. That's why some people would tell you, I know that I'm not going to make it in this conversation. Let me go and get something so that I may be normal in this
Right.
conversation.
I raise my gauge.
I raise my gauge. So to a lock.
Yeah.
So
To a lock.
and I'm grateful for the simple ones that you have talked about. And you'll discover most of us are struggling from addictions. I struggle with tea. Seriously, caffeine, not caffeine. Sometimes I go even in countries where people don't value caffeine a lot, but it's a trouble to me. There's a day I stayed for 4 days before I met with caffeine, and when it came into my contacts, the way I took it, I abused it. Yeah,
Yes.
meaning what? I am not sober until I take that caffeine, that tea.
You're
Now-
empty until you fill with caffeine.
Yeah, until I'm unsober. I'm just somebody that is not
You
there.
said it's an emptiness that you're looking to fill
Yeah,
from outside.
it is. It must be filled from outside. So it's good as you discuss it. As you try, others is chewing gum, others is sweet. They just have to take sweet. Others is even Fanta, Fanta orange. You just want to take Fanta orange for you to be. So it ranges from the extreme ones to the very simple ones.
Interesting
Now-
conversation.
Maybe just a little bit to speak about it. I call it disorder. I call it abnormality. I call it lameness, because all this thing means I am missing something. I'm not complete. The completion is somewhere else. That's why a person who cannot walk must use a crutch. So a certain substance or a certain behavior become like your crutch, your walking stick. You have to use it in order to survive. It is behavioral, it is substance. It is so simple, it can be very complex. It can be on a day-to-day activities. For the four of us, you can, when you go deeper, you can discover maybe I'm having this addiction, he's having a different addiction, but some addictions do shout more than other addictions. Some addictions bring a very destructive results than other addictions. That's why everyone is now focusing on drug and substance abuse. When she speaks about food, there are some people who can do nothing until they eat. They can do nothing. When their time to eat comes, all their system break down until they go to do what? To eat. There are some people who can do nothing until they pray. Until they pray. And you get them unaware, you want to engage them on something, they just must go and pray. They no longer depend on God. They are depending on that prayer. They are addicted to that thing.
For formula.
There are people who cannot do anything unless they have engaged in a certain conversation. Now they no longer depend on themselves. Your willpower, your power is away from you. It is given to something else.
Interesting. Maybe I just want to jog our minds a little bit when Janet speaks of chewing gum and when we speak of caffeine in tea. You know, a lot of us we deny we are addicts. Actually, we justify addiction.
Or we don't know.
We justify because when you study the benefits of chewing gums, it has a lot of benefits than disadvantages. And when you look at the benefits of taking tea, the benefits of jogging, so many a times we tend to deny. So it's a very interesting way of looking at things, whereby when we're talking about behavioral and substance addictions, there's this tendency like, no, I justify why I'm doing this. I justify why I'm doing this because the benefits outweigh the risks. So how do we now attend to the denial part? Because you tell somebody you love tea so much. No, it's cold. No, I have not taken tea in the morning. I've seen you chewing gum. No, until they will keep on defending themselves. There is that issue of defense and denial. Defense and denial. When it comes to, when you're talking about addictions. How do you...
Just before you talk about that, while they were talking, I think it's good for us to also exemplify the many kinds. You can be addicted to love. No. Love, as in you love someone, which is a kind of obsession. It is an addiction, not love. You don't love that person, but you are addicted to them. Then sex. Someone can be addicted to sex. When we're talking about the behavioral, there's another addiction that I've seen that most people who present with bipolar or borderline have,
Mhm.
it is buying, spending.
Mhm.
There's no way you can sit with money.
Mhm.
You just feel like going out to shop, going out to shop.
Mhm.
You know very well that next week you need this money to do this,
Mhm.
but you cannot help it. You
Mhm.
just have to buy that thing. And when you buy that thing, when you see another one also, you buy. You buy. You know, it looks like it's normal, like you're treating yourself, but it is addiction. Yeah. And then let me join in before they join in on what you've just talked about, like
Defense and denial.
defense and denial. The problem with most of us is that even we are not conscious that it is an addiction, leave alone defense and denial. We are not conscious. We think that addiction is the moment where that person is in a rehab. Huh? That person, it is only, actually most people think addiction is substance. But for many of us, let us reflect upon ourselves and the things we do. And when you notice that there's any sign of what we are talking about, accept that you're an addict. There's nothing you can do unless you accept. And sometimes you are an addict, you can help yourself. For some, you can help yourself when you're aware. But for some, then you'd need a psychological counselor
Mhm.
to help you, to expose you to more of that, you know? Even the thoughts, our thoughts, our thoughts are some form of addiction.
Mhm.
Some people are just, they always think negatively.
Mhm.
Some women always think that when their husbands are away, they must be doing something.
Mhm.
That is also an addiction.
Mhm.
So we should try to deal with our addictions in
How
our
do you call that addiction? Thought addiction.
it is thought addiction.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should try to deal with the small addictions that control our minds, control how we behave with money, control how we love, you know.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes, Vika.
Yes.
Defense, denial. Defense, denial.
Yes. People are justified in defending or also in denying that they are not addicts.
Mhm.
Just because of for me is that I look at the issue of use and abuse
Mhm.
and the politics of naming.
Mhm.
Yeah, like our world is a world where we've got some substances, we've got some habits, we've got some physical engagements, which we normally say these are good, and then these are bad.
Mhm.
And if you talk about alcohol,
Mhm.
generally it is known alcohol bad, and then tea
Good.
good.
Mhm.
And so we
Chewing
now
gum,
we
good.
now chewing gum good,
Mhm.
watching a movie good, but then what type of a movie bad.
Mhm.
And so there is somebody somewhere who is giving us a kind of that this, if this is it, then it is good, if this is it, that is bad. And for me is that when we talk about substance use and abuse, even for the users, the good users, if we overly rely on them. I've heard people who say, I don't sleep until I take some Piriton. Yeah, kind of a sedative, something like that. And so it started as something small, use this, and then
You listen to a
or you
music.
listen to some music, you watch some movie, whatever it is. And so for me is that people deny because they think they are doing the things that are normally said they are good. But then those good things are actually, you are over relying on them until you are now becoming an addict in a good way. Talk, for example, I've been preaching about, talking about what? Ulevi na ulafi. And those two must come together. Ulevi, and when you talk about ulevi as regards drinking hard substances like alcohol, but then also ulevi can be taken as what Mchungaji was saying, craving for nicotine and whatever, or coffee. And but also it comes with ulafi, which is gluttony, and people loving food and cravings. And sometimes also, even during pregnancy, sometimes, I don't know, there is some craving of something it could be of soil or iron or smell, yeah, during pregnancy of some sort. And so for me, is that we
Please
must.
don't go there.
I'll not go there. I'll
Please.
not go there. But then, generally, that is what it is.
Be careful, you will spoil our show.
That's not an addiction. Because if it continues after pregnancy, then we qualify it to be an addiction.
Yes, and remember, that is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
You know, it begins small.
But it doesn't
Even
continue.
that chewing gum of Big G, it
Mhm.
started as small. Let me refresh.
Mhm.
And then on and on and on.
Get used to.
You get used
Habits.
to until you don't know how to.
Mhm.
Talk, for example, a deodorant, something that you have a spray.
Mhm.
And it is like if you don't use that spray, you know, it begins small. And it is like you don't know how to, you can't tell how do you behave. Talk, for example, a phone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we must come again so that we don't deny, because even that I can see some.
For
some-
pregnancy, I'll put a disclaimer
You
there.
can-
we
we
will
can-
just
we
spoil
can
the
argue
show.
later
yes,
on.
yes,
And
yes.
but the thing is that the use and abuse, people deny because some substances you can be put in prison, and so you must deny and say, hey, because it is said wrong. And some uses, people can say, oh yeah, they can justify.
Okay, interestingly, people don't deny the bad addictions. People deny things that look good, that cannot be actually, they're not bad. But you tell somebody you are watching TV, they say, there's a story I'm following here. So, yes, Reverend.
Correct.
I think I agree with you. People, before it becomes harmful to them,
Mhm.
they will keep on, because by itself it brings some fulfillment, some pleasure.
Mhm.
And all of us love pleasure and fulfillment.
Mhm.
And anything that gives me pleasure and fulfillment, I have to defend it. So the denial, apart from what Janet said, that sometimes people don't know, they are not conscious. And when I am conscious, when I'm conscious, I'm protecting my territory, something that gives me pleasure, something that gives me fulfillment. Therefore, I have to justify it. I have to tell you, I'm following a certain series. I have to tell you, it's normal. I just need sugar in my body. That's why I'm chewing the gum. I defend it because it's giving me pleasure, and that's why to break addiction, those who are outside need to fight it with a lot of energy to make this other one understand it and accept it, that it hurts others. It hurts you. You know the problem with addiction, it hurts the addict and it hurts others. So sometimes you don't think it hurts you. Sometimes you don't think it hurts others. You just think it's your space and it's your life. And I would actually say, since it normally starts as an innocent thing, something that is innocent, like what happened to Eve at the garden. She saw the fruit and the fruit looked good. It normally looks very good. And that's why it's so easy to initiate people into a behavior, because it looks so good. Actually, you rarely get addicted to a bad thing. It is you enjoy that thing until you lose something that we call self-control. So it begins to control you. That's why we normally say, you see it with your eyes, you begin to like it, to love it, it goes to your mind, which we call obsession. When it stays in your minds, you get obsessed. You just want it now. You just want to see it. That's why sometimes you'd see some people sneaking out of their bedroom, going to watch TV, or going to watch their phone. Now the mind has been taken. And then after some time, you come to a place whereby you are possessed. It has taken you now. The other time your mind is taken, now it takes you. You belong to them. You enter into a bondage. You begin to serve them. So I would say most people deny and defend, because they are defending their pleasure. They are defending their pleasure. And remember again, for marketing strategy, we survive with things called names. If it has not been given a name, it is okay. Until it is given a name. We have given alcohol a name. That's why everyone is discouraging against alcohol. The moment they will begin to say excessive chewing of gums is harmful to your health, we have already given it a name. Now the awareness will begin to happen.
carrying many pregnancies can lead you to addiction. Okay, it's interesting there, Vika, talking about pregnant women.
Like
and
for
maybe,
instance,
Mhm,
I in the Western country,
mhm,
when cancer was so rampant,
mhm,
people were they used extreme painkillers
mhm,
to treat cancer patients,
mhm,
and people became addicted to
mhm,
those drugs,
mhm,
and they allowed those painkillers even to be used on normal and simple headaches.
mhm,
So you just test it at once
mhm,
and you get addicted. I remember I used to help a young girl who was addicted to drugs
mhm,
because she was treated of some kind of diseases.
mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting conversations we are having, discussing about classifications of addiction, which is very wide, and we always narrow to drug and substance abuse. And I just want to take this opportunity to take a short break, and maybe to help us understand what addiction is. Kindly follow us on our YouTube page, Jesus Center, our Facebook page, Jesus Center, and Allan Kiombe, and Pastor Allan's page. Like, subscribe, and follow. We'll be right back. Okay, we continue interesting discussion here, and maybe later on we'll bring an expert to tell us if cravings of pregnancy is an addiction, because which I tend to think it's not. What are some of the main causes? Because I don't think pregnancy can be a cause of addiction, because once you carry pregnancy, you'll discover people who carried several pregnancies, they have different cravings. For the first baby, maybe it was milk, the second baby was fruits, the third baby was meat. But after you give delivery, or after you deliver the baby, those cravings go together with that season, that
I
gestation
think we
period.
can to just to exonerate the venerable, just to exonerate the venerable. He didn't say cravings of pregnancy is addiction. He was trying to tell us it can come through those cravings. After one begins to use some things, after some time, there are those that it dies automatically because it was pregnancies, but there are those that can get hooked and arrested by that behavior and then continue with it even after pregnancy. He was not saying that pregnancy is part of the
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
What
I
are
don't-
some of the
I don't want him
main-
to have problem with his wife when he goes home.
nor his church members and sisters. You know, he's representing a larger community, not only his wife. Yeah. You'll scare young girls who want to get pregnant. What are main causes? What are some of the main causes that bring us into addiction? Because we've talked of simple. I used to love chewing gums also, because now I knew when I'm chewing gums, I can write. I can think until I stopped. Okay, I started doing it once. Sometimes it can stay a month. Yeah, I became conscious and said, hey, my mouth is always busy. So I discovered actually, if you want your brain to work well, you chew. So what are some of the main causes of addiction that we can highlight in this show today? What are some of the main causes of addiction?
Okay, for me, I'll look at it in the psychological perspective,
Mhm.
and I'd say addiction has roots. Addiction has roots, more especially the addictions that we are used to. not we are used to, the ones that we are aware about. Um, Addiction has, any type of addiction has its roots. Its roots could be in some form of abuse. The abuse could be emotional, it could be physical, it could even be spiritual. The abuse also could be, not abuse, but it could be in the form of heredity. Some people are more predisposed, they are more at risk to
It is in the
addictions.
blood.
Yeah, because of heredity. And also at that, now when we subdivide into physical and all those, we talk about, addiction can be as a result of abandonment. It can be as a result of shameful things that happen to someone. It can also be as a result of grief. When someone is not able to deal with grief in the right way, remember the 5 steps. When someone does not go through the whole circle, it may lead to also some form of addiction. So I'm looking at the roots in the psychological perspective.
So when we see up here, there's something down there.
Yeah.
Yes, Vika, what are some of the main causes that lead us to addiction?
Curiosity is
Mhm.
one
Mm-hmm.
which can make people to get addicted to something. And you are curious. You just want to know and feel. How does it feel when you use this substance or when you behave this way? And so we get into uses of substance to alter our moods so that we can feel, could be high or could be happy, whatever it is. And so we need to, or we want to be brave. If you think about people who are using marijuana, others would say they want to be tough and that kind of a thing. If you think about people who are using some sexual pills, is that they want to have stamina for yes, longevity.
We call it cloud 9 experience.
Cloud 9.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we must be, actually, in this case, we must say people have got different states or gaps in their lives which they want to fill. And when Reverend was talking about fulfillment, what is that gives you fulfillment? And so if you have got something which is not adding up in your life, well, somebody can go for that use and abuse of something. If it was something like, say, your parent was a drunkard and you are inborn, for example, and somehow, and somehow is that you are fed in the stomach all that alcohol, whatever it is.
Nowadays, you want to be a gynecologist. You're still going back to the pregnancy issue.
Okay. I would speak about environmental.
Yes.
Environmental. If you are raised up in a certain environment,
Yes.
you have a tendency to incline towards what is happening.
Yeah.
Like when we speak about tea, it's environmental. Everyone takes tea. We are growing in tea. When we speak about alcohol, sometimes it can be environmental. Those people have been raised from such environment where they are those substance and drug environmental. It can be a peer pressure influence, external influence from friends or peer group, people that you hang together with them. It can be in a job place. I've seen people starting drunkenness in their workplace. It can be from school, things like smoking. They can start as a peer pressure, influence from others. Again, I can say it can be as a result of medication, just a normal, ordinary medication that someone goes for it and then he gets hooked to a certain habit. And as you keep on saying that every addiction, it's habits that has gone beyond your own control. After doing something for a long time, you get used to it and you begin to depend on it. Another thing I would say, because my first definition was, I said, you have lost, addiction is you have lost a certain power. You have lost a part of you and you feel it's no longer in you, it's outside you. I can say, as Janet said, one of the reasons as to why people go into addiction is because of maybe what they went through in life. If someone was abused, if someone was molested, their esteem was destroyed, their personality was killed. So they go outside to look for assurance, to deal with their esteem. People that have been raised up in low self-esteem, they have a tendency to go towards drunkenness so as to psych themselves, to make themselves to feel good. People that have been abused, they have gone through a lot of pain in their lives. They go into substance abuse for healing, to cause them to sleep, to forget their trouble, so that they may get lost somewhere. Again, because of the emptiness that is created in somebody, someone is looking for an identity in a certain group, and that group could be having a certain behavior that he has to hook himself in those things. I would also say sometimes it's just the devil. It's just the devil that takes you to things that it's not good. Not sometimes,
The way
many
he
a
talks
times.
to Eve.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just leave me there. Sometimes it's just the devil. There's no good reason. You just find yourself taking alcohol. Just find yourself taking cigarette. You just find yourself you're having a bad appetite somewhere. You need something. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes.
So, in addition to what they have clearly said, we have like 5 criterions that we use to diagnose an addiction in terms of the substance use and abuse. If you, most of the addicts, they started just like any other drug or something. So now they use it. Why? To feel better. Hiyo vile mnasema cloud nine. To feel better, to do better. Like now, in the sense of performance, the stamina that we was talking about, to do good. I've said to do better, to feel better, to feel good, and then for curiosity, and then peer pressure. Ask addicts around. Those 5 reasons culminate in what leads to an addiction.
And the enabling environment is also a cause of addiction.
Yes.
Because now there's a family I know, they have a worker
Mm-hmm.
who has to smoke bang so that he can cultivate
Mhm.
more land.
Mm.
So they enable him to smoke bang so that their work can do faster. So there is that enabling environment whereby for our dad to be happy, let him get drunk. When he is drunk, now we will get whatever we want. So another cause of somebody going into addiction is that enabling environment where it
Intoxicated.
is you're very supported. People actually justify that you're better off drunk, better off into this habit so that they see the positive results.
Yes.
Your environment enables you to become an addict and you become like a hero. Because like I look at this worker, he cultivates, he does a lot of work. Actually, he can do work three people in one. So they encourage this guy to cultivate, to take bang so that he can work, and they celebrate him. Even there's one here in town. People love him. I don't want to call his name. They call him because when he is intoxicated, he will work for you, and he will work for you.
Even in industries like entertainment, singing and dancing and all those things, and even prostitution, the owners of those people, they encourage them to take something so that they can perform better than where they are.
So another cause is that enabling
Abuse.
environment.
That's abuse.
Enabling environment.
So in what you have described and in what we have said, we see here there's a person who takes drugs to do better. And then they are the addiction enablers. Yeah.
Addiction enablers. Actually, they are there. You've seen these women who encourage their girls to go and prostitute so that
And
money
maybe
can come
if we
home.
may ask, use and abuse. At first they are using it.
Then they begin
Then
to abuse
It
it.
is abuse. Every time when it is used out of the context or prescription or what is required, it is called abuse. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting. Even the one we talk in the Bible of Timothy, that we justify. When
Paul is saying to Timothy, you just use a little for your stomach.
That is use.
That is use.
For abuse.
Even it ends up being one for the road. That may not be one for the road, one bottle for the road. It can
becomes
be
a
one crate for the
road.
Could be the whole
depot.
of everything.
Yes.
Depot
like
for the road.
like the children that are raised up by the parents that were running shops or clubs
Mhm.
that were selling drug and substance abuse. They have a tendency towards that direction
Very true.
because they come into contact with it early in life.
Interesting. As we lay foundation on addiction, maybe we just wrap up this show quickly by how does one know, or how do you know you're an addict? What are the perimeters that we can discuss when we have discussed about denial and defense? How does one know? How do I know that now I'm an addict?
First criteria you cannot control.
Mhm.
You find yourself doing it. You promise yourself. You talk to yourself. You see a counselor,
You
but
swear.
you swear that this is the last time, but you still do it. So you have no control.
Yes, for me is that you have 24 hours and to do particular things. And when you have those 24 hours, just see what is that you are it's your time. Yeah, and you are not able to get away. Yes, that is the thing. That is the killer. Other commitments. You ignore other commitments. Yes. You don't attend to others. Actually, you really do that one because sometimes it rewards you, but then you rely so much and thinking that that is the thing. But then there could be other responsibilities for that.
I would say she has said about lack of control. You've lost your independence over that thing. Whatever you do, you just have to do it. You have become a servant, a slave of that thing. That thing has become your master. And another thing I would say, you even don't care about the consequence. Regardless of the consequence, you just have to do it. And that's why you see most of those abusers, they even have to go and hide in a maize plantation or even in a bush to smoke. They don't care whether the snake will catch them there or not, or it's raining on them. They will just have to do it. You don't care what will happen as long as you just get it. That's why even people share needles. They don't care about other infections. As long as I get your major need, your primary need is that substance, is that object. So you don't care whatever it causes, whatever results can come out of it. I would also say you will also know it when you begin to be taken away from your social life, from the social people, from your family. Maybe you are just on TV, you have left your family. Maybe you are on phone, you have left every other person, even you have left your workplace. One day I went to be administered to in a certain hospital by a certain doctor far away. And the doctor was just on computer playing game, and he's supposed to do surgery on me, playing game. He speaks with you, he comes, tests you, he goes back to play game. You abdicate your duties and you abdicate your relationship with other persons. Those are the things we call addiction. Like in church, someone is preaching or you are in a conversation and you've gone to the phone and you are deep on it. You may not be doing a bad thing. That's also a sign that you are living in addiction.
And also, there's something when you talked about the phone and etc. You see, right now in the world of psychology, we are dealing with phone addiction, internet addiction, yeah, and gaming and things like that. So we were saying for people who have phone addiction, the reason as to why they're doing that, it is subconscious, but it is there. They have what we call FMO, fear of missing out. There's nothing that really you're looking for on Facebook. There's nothing. But within you, unconsciously, there's the fear of missing out.
Oh.
You think that there's something that has bypassed you. And in real sense, there's nothing. Nothing will bypass you. Nothing has bypassed you. But you wake up in the morning. The first thing you have to scroll your.
Like something missed out.
Yes, something happened. And you have to be, but you're not aware that what you're going through is fear of missing out.
I think the bloggers have created the FMO syndrome because they are the people who are first-hand informers. So people who are always addicted to phones, they want to act like these social media managers. These people always have information fast. I think I think to me
That one is
to me the
is a big one.
to me
Addiction to news, addiction to information.
because
Yeah.
you feel like you want to be the first one, you know, that you feel like a pro, that I knew that. So I think one of the addiction that has brought us actually the bloggers and the social media managers, even in Twitter, there are these people who are called bullies. They know everything until you wonder, then you want to be like them.
Then you want to be a hero.
You want to be a hero and you don't know what they are doing. You don't know how they are living. You don't know. You just know their name only. You don't know where they are. And I think it's an interesting conversation. We will
Looks
pick it
like
from
you two
here.
have liked it. It's like me and
I just wanted to I just wanted to talk about it
we'll have to
because
have a small meeting after this.
I want to talk about it. I'm actually supporting Janet, and
Yes.
when we're talking about internet addiction, we'll pick it up from there. Yes. Thank you. It's a wonderful conversation we've had. We will continue and pick it up from there the coming days of this month of June. We are talking about addiction. Thank you so very much, Reverend Allan, for this platform, and thank you for allowing us to converse with you. Thank you, Vika Stroke, gynecologist today. You've really delved into pregnancy issues. Maybe we can do some courses with you. And maybe when you're talking about things to do with pregnancy, you look like very competent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Janet. It's been a wonderful show. I've been your moderator, Vivian Kibeu. See you. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are honored to have conversations with Reverend Allan, a program that is talking about issues of life. And today, again, we're in a new month. I just want to wish you a happy, blessed new month as I welcome Reverend Allan to give us the ball or the conversation